Hey everyone, welcome back to another Executive Table Talk sponsored by Work It Daily. I'm JT O'Donnell and I am the host, and we are talking about signs your company's IT operations are failing today. Really excited to talk about this topic. I've got three amazing guests to join me here today. Welcome, Michael, Lynn, and Carla. Good to have you all here. So my executive panel, we're talking about IT operations, warning signs that things are breaking, and more importantly, what you think companies can do to start to implement change. So Michael, I'm going straight over to you because you worked for the NFL. You've been in NFL operations, and I'm sure you've got some brilliant analogies to go with this. So let's talk about the warning signs. How do we know?
Yes, failing IT operation in the NFL would prove very, very detrimental to the game. I mean, it's nearly impossible to even maintain a game because there's necessary communications, there's infrastructure that needs to operate for a professional sports arena. Signs of failing IT would be, let's talk about off the field first. Home networks, people work from home, and connectivities would be a problem. You may have suffered some IT security breaches a few times, more than once. So that could be an issue. Your in-person meetings in the office, as far as at the conference table, Wi-Fi issues could be a problem. Backup and recovery plans are now a mystery. Maybe their leagues have plans, and maybe things are going awry now because of the the breaches. Also, employee productivity is down. If they're having a hard time connecting or doing stuff on the computer because of IT issues. Also, employee productivity is down. IT issues between the league office and teams during the game. It's very important that the operation and communications between the teams and the league office during the games are connected very, very well because they both need each other. Now, as far as on the field issues, the coach to quarterback communications could be a problem. The coach needs to communicate with the quarterback they have on the ear. The coach is talking to the quarterback, and if there's issues there. The sideline tablets, which has been a problem in the past, if that's not working, that can affect the game. That's how the coach makes the plays and shows the players. And also, too, that's how the coach also communicates with the team. Sometimes you'll see a coach will communicate with the box upstairs, and he'll have something over his mouth because, again, it's a very competitive world. Sometimes the coach, they don't want other teams can read people's lips, and they can get a beat on what's going on that way. Also, instant replay will not be available to game officials. On the game, as you know, there's a lot of instant replays on plays. So if there's no communication, if IT is having problems, these games are very competitive, and no one wants to lose a game because the officials can't reach back and look at instant replay. There's media operations that needs these communications. Also, the media needs the cutting edge graphics and stories that it sends back to the TV feed. So that's very important stuff. And a couple other things is that security. Smart navigation that monitors dangerous weapons and things in the stadium. Yes, there's magnetometers when people first come into stadiums, but also the stadium is being monitored with security navigation. And lastly, referee contact with the league office for critical calls. There are many times when the NFL officials on the field will have the league office decide a call, whether it's one way or another. So the communication between the two is very, very necessary. And in summary, a failing IT operation would damage the NFL's main product. That's the game. It would affect the game very, very much. Thank you.
Okay, given your background, finance operations, for you to be able to list off such a litany of things related to IT blows my mind. And pretty much any football fan right now is having like heart attack thinking about all the ways in which the game could be sabotaged, like you said. I mean, truly sabotaged if you think about it. It's mind-blowing to me. And I love that you walked everybody through that because I think we forget what a big role IT has in a company's function. It's, when it's running smoothly, everyone forgets about it.
Right.
But when it's breaking, everybody needs to know about it. So I love the way you map that out. And I think most people listening today, if your company isn't thinking about creating that checklist of
Right.
things that can break. What, how do they get solved? Who's responsible for them? That sort of thing, which I know, given your background in finance and operations, there was always a point person, which was great. But thank you for walking us through that for sure.
The
It was
NFL wants
beautiful.
the people talking about the game. They don't want you talking about how bad the officiating was, the IT. They want people to talk about the competition on the field.
They
That's the
do.
main focus of, people don't, these things happen, but the main audience doesn't need to know. They don't know about all the things behind the scenes.
I agree with you. I mean, the reality is that you want it to come down to the performance on the field, not
Yes,
that something,
yes,
on the sides actually
right.
impacted that. No, definitely. It's amazing.
Thank you, thank you.
Such a cool. So, Lynn, we're going to jump down to you because you have this massive background in SaaS operations, selling SaaS software, building and taking things to market. So, when things break, it's bad. So, let's talk about it with you a little bit.
Tough to follow talking about operations for football. That's kind of a fun subject, but thank you. I think this is an important subject, especially in this down economy where spending is under such scrutiny. So in my work, I have the honor of helping SaaS founders go to market primarily with enterprise buyers. And I help enterprise ops leaders to solve problems, things that are exposing them to risk, creating excess operating costs, and limiting their operations profitability. And I help them do that with technology. So, coming from the outside, working in, I feel like that gives me a unique vantage point where I'm able to see different technologies that are available that solve these problems, as well as helping these enterprise leaders to recognize results that they're not getting, technology that will get them the results that they want and do it with a near-term return, which is really important in this economy, and then help them to build the justification, the business case, and to navigate the buying process. But this gets a little bit tricky because when you're in it, you're doing, you're using, and it's a bit of the frog in the pot where it's hard to see what are those efficiencies that are available that we don't have. To see the measurable impact that technology can make in the outcomes that you're getting. And also that the spend for a technology initiative is probably buried in the low value activities that you're funding. So I take clients through a process, a few steps. First off is an audit. So I help them walk through the end-to-end process throughout their organization. This could be a transaction or just the flow of the entire process that they use, going through their work groups, going through their systems, and the data requirements that they have. I help them then ID the low value activities that they use on a daily basis that could be automated. Thirdly is taking that audit and using it to identify, do we have shelfware, which would be software or apps that we're not really getting the full benefit of it, but we're paying for it. Secondly, the needed functionality that you require in technology versus just nice to haves, because everybody loves bells and whistles. Thirdly, is helping them to build a technology specification so that they can go out and source and evaluate and select the technology that they really need. And then fourthly, to build a whole organization business case. So this would be the justification for how this is going to benefit all of their stakeholders and those that report under them. But for today, I want to share some few signals that I think are helpful to indicate that it might be time to look at our ops technology. So the first thing is, does your organization have a process owner? So this would be somebody that understands the entire process, the entire transaction end to end, to see what's our data flow, watches it going through all of the departments and all of the systems that each of the departments are using, and then watching that then flow into the back office, which is your systems of record. Secondly, if you don't have periodic audits of that entire process, you're not going to be able to spot inefficiency. So I think that audit and done periodically is really important. Thirdly, is if your operations is still relying on manual processes and data entry to send data between departments, to share data, to transfer data, and to archive your data to get it into your back office or system of record. Fourthly is, are you still using Excel spreadsheets as a core process in your operations? And lastly, if you're absent having that audit, you're not going to be able to identify if you have redundancy in your different technology that you're using, apps that you have and you're paying for, but you're really not getting the benefit of it. And those that you are overlapping the technology that you have. So you have more than one thing that offers something. Lastly, if there's manual processes and you aren't able to identify those, so you can see the areas where it would be an opportunity to automate it. So those five things, is what I would say are kind of quick signs to know, should we dig in a little deeper? Should we bring somebody in to walk us through an evaluation and help us really identify those available efficiencies, the impact that technology can make in our outcomes, and uncover the dollars that we're spending on manual processes and low value activities that we can repurpose towards new technology that's going to help us do better.
I love everything you said, but the auditing thing really strikes me, because I think that for someone to come in with fresh eyes, I heard two things: bring someone in with fresh eyes and have them take you through an audit. Because it reminds me of that story you hear all the time about people coming into a building and there's like a cord running down the main, like an extension cord running down the main hallway. And people are like, what's that doing there? And they're like, we just forget it's there. It's been there so long, we forget. And that's exactly what went through my mind, that story, when you were saying that, Lynn. How many people are out there right now having IT operations issues and don't know it?
And we've done workarounds, right?
Right. And so it's good enough. And they're going so fast fixing everything that they don't realize life could be infinitely easier had there been an audit and some things that they don't even know existed were implemented. So I absolutely love what you said there. I hope people are really taking that away, which is huge. Great stuff. Which leads into our third expert, Carla. Carla, you are, corporate executive turned stylist, which is the most amazing transformation ever. And I love that you're coming on and sharing that knowledge because you've been there, you've saw it. So let's talk a little bit about your, warning signs that the IT operations aren't in a good shape. And what do you suggest?
Okay, thanks, JT. Well, when I thought about that question, it really brought me back to my corporate America days, which are not that far behind me. And it was really almost a bigger question to me, not just IT operations, but when departments and teams are at risk of failure. Are there red flags? Are there things that we should be looking for? Or maybe they're right there and we just don't notice that they're there or see them as a red flag. So a few things really came to mind for me with this question. First of all, I thought about problem resolution. And it's funny because when I think of IT, I always like job security, right? Because we need our IT ops and things change so quickly in that industry. Technology is advancing, there's new hardware, there's new software. So I feel that if we can look at our IT ops and get better and progress, that's a good sign. If we are having problems that are not being resolved or problems we see over and over again in our ops, that could be an issue. It could be a red flag. Secondly, outsourcing. So let me say there's nothing wrong with outsourcing certain things or duties in a company. But if you have an in-house IT department, but then you see that your company's outsourcing, it just could be something to look for. Certainly, one department should be able to handle that most of the time. So to me, outsourcing could be a red flag that your IT ops are failing. And lastly, look at your IT department. As much as the ops is about product and processes, like Lynn was explaining, I thought she did a great job of that. It's also about people. We have to have the right people in the right place. So if you're seeing a lot of turnover in your IT department or your team, or a mass exodus, that to me is concerning. And it could be a situation where our IT ops are at risk if we don't have the right people there, the right place at the right time.
Oh my gosh, Carla, that's literal gold. When you talked about the outsourcing, so there's a sign that we don't have the right staff, that third point you made. And the turnover piece, if people are leaving, it's because they feel like they can't fix it. Why stay in an environment where I can't fix the IT problems that I'm literally hired to fix? And I am with you, being in HR and recruiting. I have seen and heard so many people leave saying, my company wouldn't do the tech upgrades. They wouldn't listen to us about these problems, but then they wonder why things don't work correctly. So having an advocate who is there, and I think that kind of goes back to everything that all of you said today, is that I heard inventory, get an inventory of everything that's going on from Michael. I heard really do the assessment from Lynn, like walk through and find the broken parts, especially the ones that you didn't know exist. And I'm hearing from you, Carla, get the right team in place. And if you're seeing these warning signs, you need an IT stakeholder. You need somebody who has a voice in the company, who will get people to take IT seriously so that you can solve for those problems, so that it doesn't get to a critical failing point. And I just want to say, I want to give a shout out to Mike Thorne. He's another one of the amazing Work It Daily executive experts. And he just made the comment, and I think it's so true. He said, just listening to this is quite obvious why having IT experience matters. It's missed by so many business leaders because they tend to see it as a cost and therefore defer to upgrading and improving. Mike, you said it better than I ever could. So thank you for summarizing that, because I think that's really what I want people to take away from today, is listening to all of you experts, is this is not something that should be ignored. And if you're seeing these signs in your company, even if you're not in IT, if you're a business leader, please be aware, as Mike's pointed out, this is something you want to know enough about to be dangerous and to be able to get people to take it seriously, because it can cripple an organization. I'm blown away with how this gets kind of second-class citizen status, and yet it's the very thing that can ruin a company, break an organization. Folks, if you've got questions, comments, feedback, please make sure you pop it in the chat now. I also just want to take this moment to remind you that these three executives are here on LinkedIn. They are creators on LinkedIn, dropping incredible knowledge bombs. I'm just going to call them that. So please make sure you reach out to them. In fact, ask them to connect. But if you do, what do I always teach you? Send a custom connection request and let them know you saw them on Executive Table Talk. That way they'll know to go ahead and accept, because they're always open to talking and working with you all. And that's why I love these executives so much. While I'm waiting for questions, I kind of want to go back and ask each one of you, and I'll put you on the spot. So Michael, I'll put you on the spot first. Can you think of the worst IT blooper or issue that you had when you were at the NFL? Is there something that comes to mind?
The only thing that comes to mind is the communication with the officials, communicating with the league office. I've seen that as an issue. Sometimes the communication gets tied up and screwed up, and a lot of these coaches are looking for the league office to solve the problem and to answer the question. So I've seen that as a big problem. One time, there was a critical play, and the officials on the ground, when I say they didn't get it right, they're looking for more angle feeds or more feeds from the truck that's taking the pictures, and you want to have the right answer. So they need the league office to make the final decision. So and the commissioner, they're looking for good calls, and the teams are, some of these teams are in a critical situation. So win or lose. So that's the things I've seen.
My gosh, it's funny that you say that, because I feel like all of us know a sports fan who will still tell you about that call that
Yeah.
that resulted in the outcome of the entire end of the season, right? To your part, and that all comes back to something technical.
Yes.
That's frightening. It's frightening. Lynn, what about you? What's the biggest blunder you saw?
Well, I think in the work that I do with enterprise companies, when it's a fear of taking on an initiative and there's clearly a need, there's justification for it, but kind of that old school. I'm just, used to the way that it's done. And so it becomes sort of a denial of the inefficiencies that have come to the surface and just choosing to not engage. And as I mentioned earlier, and Mike alluded to, oftentimes that cost that they would invest into technology is already there in their budget. It's just they're using it for low value activity. And so if they repurpose, there's often a creative way to justify it. And there's so much benefit that can be had. But if the paradigm is, we're a multi-generational company, or, we've always done it this way, and there's fear around embracing new technologies. I mean, just think about what pretty much everybody on the planet is going through right now with, AI and GPT. Do I use it? How do I use it? What are the new tools? And it really requires us stepping out and familiarizing ourselves. But, there's people that can help really walk that out and build that business case so that it does work for the organization, but it requires openness. And I've just found that sometimes it's sort of this, bias going into it where there's just not openness. And I feel like we've moved past that, to be successful. We really need to have openness to technology in a new way.
I think it's funny you say that, because have you ever heard they say people always take the aspirin? They don't take the vitamin consistently, but they always take the aspirin when they're in pain. I feel like with IT, what you just described over and over again is, they don't think about it till they're in so much pain, and they're probably paying double, and it's unfortunate. So I love that there are people out there like you, Lynn, who try to walk them through it and make them understand the pain could come. It could really be there. Carla, what about you? What's the worst IT blunder you've seen?
That's an easy one, JT. It's when a software program is purchased for a particular group. So in my experience, it's been in sales, and the sales team starts working with that program and it is not user friendly. So I will tell you, all executives, if you are looking to get any kind of software program, please let the team that's going to use it try it out first, because you will save yourself a lot of heartache, a lot of complaining when you do that. Too many times I've seen that happen. And, usually the people who are not going to use it are the people that choose it. They get some kind of demo, and once it's rolled out to the staff, it just doesn't work. It's not a good fit.
Oh my gosh. I can tell you so many stories of that. Absolutely. I completely agree with you. And it's a nightmare. And it still blows your mind that it happens today, right? You'd think by now we learned our lesson, but it happens for sure. Folks, this was wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and wisdom today. Folks, if you have not already done so, all of you out there listening, one more reminder, please go find and follow Michael Willis, Lynn Holland, and Carla Biasi right now here on LinkedIn. Better yet, send them a custom connection request and say, hey, I saw you on ETT, Executive Table Talk with JT, and I want to connect. They are amazing. That way you'll get their information in your feed. They're always dropping really insightful articles and advice that you can take advantage of. And if you are interested in learning on how to become an executive here with Work It Daily, please message me. We have an incredible panel of people sharing their wisdom and knowledge here. We would love to have you be part of the community. Message me and I will share more details with you, okay? All right, everyone, until next time, remember, if you want to win, you've got to work it daily. So find and follow us here. Come back. We're here every Tuesday and Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, dropping these amazing episodes. I'll see you there next time, okay? Thanks, experts. Thanks, everyone.